Bam, a little bit closer, maybe.
Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. We are ready to get into our headlines, so let's start this news show. Let me do that again. Awesome. Okay. First news day on Before Coffee. Northern Ireland could lose half its veterinary medicines in a Brexit row.
And good morning for Good Tuesday News Day. America's most socialist team and America's most socialist league has their stockholders meeting.
Heat waves in southern Europe were virtually impossible without climate change.
The world's first cargo ship running on green methanol weighs anchor.
Jury expected to give verdict over Brussels terror attack.
And in more Good Tuesday News Day, an espresso a day could keep Alzheimer's at bay. And a boy stops at a random house to leave a pep talk on this July 25th. 2023 edition of Before Coffee.
All right, let's go ahead and reset the music. Every time I forget to turn the music off. There we go.
At least my cables aren't a bundle of mess anymore.
There we go. All right. First news story, your cables aren't in a bundling mess. Yes, that's right. This morning we spent a couple of minutes making sure our cables weren't freaking wrapped around our tripods in an unending mess of doom. So, speaking of maybe the doom for the cows, this is from Lisa O'Carroll in Brussels. Northern Ireland could lose half of its veterinary medicines in a new Brexit row, threatening to prolong the political stalemate in the region. The British Veterinary Association told the Lords Committee on Northern Ireland in written evidence that it was extremely concerned about the issue even though the Windsor Framework sealed between Rishi Sunak and Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, in March was sold as a solution to the protracted saga regarding Northern Ireland. The issue centers on the requirement of manufacturers of medicines for farm animals and pets to get their medicine batch tested in the EU before they can be put on sale in Northern Ireland. The BVA welcomed a grace period for the continuing movement of products into Northern Ireland until 2025, but said unless a permanent solution was found, sales of medicines ranging from anesthetics to vaccines for salmonella could be discontinued. A similar problem has arisen under the original Northern Ireland Protocol for hospital and pharmacy medicines, which has since been solved. Failure to obtain a permanent solution could see Northern Ireland lose access to 51% of the veterinary medicine it currently receives. This would affect all sectors: farm, equine, pigs, poultry, and pets. All will have significant implications on animal health and welfare, public health, trade, and agricultural economy, the BVA wrote. The issues of one of the several raised in new reports on the House of Lords Protocol on Northern Ireland Committee. Though the Windsor Framework is a clear improvement over the original protocol, it is highly complex, said the committee chair Michael J. Businesses need clarity. The government and the European Union both need urgently to explain what that Windsor Framework means in practice for businesses. The committee examined in detail the economic, political, and legal constitutional impact of the Windsor Framework. The issue over the Brexit trading agreements in Northern Ireland have cast a long shadow over local politics, with the Democratic Unionist Party boycotting a return to power sharing for the past 18 months. The framework was designed to drastically reduce the barriers to trade that arose from the original Brexit deal sealed by David Frost in 2020. It requires businesses in Great Britain to treat Northern Ireland as if it was within the EU, meaning exports to the region had to comply with EU laws. Yeah, because you can't control the border between Ireland and Northern Ireland, so it's way easier to control the border between the mainland and Ireland, basically.
Yeah.
The main island versus Ireland. Okay, lots of lands in there. The Windsor Framework, most of these checks are swept away for the goods that can be approved by to be sold only in Northern Ireland, especially in supermarkets, corner shops, and canteens in schools, hospitals, and factories. But the committee heard there were still issues around the movement of livestock from Northern Ireland to Great Britain and back. Also posing a problem was the sheer technical and legal complexity of the framework. The committee called on the government and the EU to do more to explain in plain English what the provisions of the framework meant in practice, and to publish a comprehensive study or summary, including a consolidated text of the amended original protocol. This law is too long. Can somebody just give me the freaking TDLR? Wait, TLDR. Sorry, TLDR. Too long. Didn't read. Can I give my cows medicine or what? Let me know. Okay. That's my first story.
Oh, cool. And moving right along, we get to professional sports. We haven't talked about sports today, but it's Good News Day, so we're going to talk about the NFL and which is the most socialist league in sports, because they invented profit sharing. Nice. So none of the owners can possibly lose money because their TV deal is split evenly among all owners, no matter how bad their teams are. And in that league is a team called the Green Bay Packers, who are owned by the citizens of Green Bay or Wisconsin or whoever can buy stock, and the stock has no value whatsoever. You can't sell it. It never increases in value. It pays no dividends. But the owners can feel like they're actual owners of the team, even though they make no decisions whatsoever. And these people don't believe in socialism. Anyway, Aaron Rodgers was
Wisconsinite. Yeah, doesn't believe in socialism. He can say that. He's from Wisconsin. He knows.
Socialism is bad, but the smallest town in America with a sports team continually makes money somehow. Because of a TV contract, basically.
Yeah.
All right. And this is from the Green Bay Press Gazette, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Aaron Rodgers was mentioned at the Green Bay Packers shareholders meeting Monday. It wasn't the first time and it won't be the last, but for the first time in a long time, he wasn't the focus of the coming season. When Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy mentioned Rodgers, there was a smattering of negative comments in an otherwise quiet audience. But when Mark Murphy pushed back, pointing out that Rodgers is one of the greatest players in Packers history, and that he should be appreciated for that, he got applause from the assembled shareholders and the guests. No, Aaron was a great player for us 18 years. He will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. We will bring him back and retire his number at the appropriate time, Murphy said. Rodgers, four-time NFL MVP, was traded to the New York Jets in the offseason. Murphy said the Packers were excited to see how Jordan Love, the new starting quarterback, would do this season. He also mentioned, and with what appeared to be a small degree of amusement, that the Jets would be on HBO's Hard Knocks, a series that looks at teams that have had less success over the years as they try to right their ships. The documentary-style series is not something most teams would want to be part of. Haha, you guys are going to have cameras in your faces all training camp.
Uh-oh.
We the Jets will. We are proud we have never been in Hard Knocks. Well, successful teams don't get on there. By the way, the Jets, hold on a second. By the way, the Jets will be on Hard Knocks. I think we have 8 former Packers on the Jets, Murphy said, which drew a collective chuckle from the crowd. All of which is to say that while the Packers did a lot of things last year as an organization, they did not make the playoffs for the first time in 4 years, and they're heading into the new season with a new untested quarterback in Love. Murphy did not go through the long list of accomplishments, including charitable fundraising. I'm sorry, he did go through the long list of accomplishments. You heard that noise?
Yes.
Somebody's car alarm outside.
Okay.
So we got a beat to go with our news. Murphy did go through a long list of accomplishments, including charitable fundraising efforts to distribute AEDs throughout the community, diverse efforts, a game in London, and construction of a new football facility. Okay, it stopped. New concession stands and large new video boards getting their first use on Monday. Packers shareholders were pretty happy with the organization despite last year's 8-3 record. They made some smart business moves, said Jacob Alford, a shareholder from La Crosse, who mentioned specifically the construction of the atrium in 2003 and improvements since. Chuck McGuire of Onalaska last attended a shareholders meeting in 2011. It's one of those things. Finally, I was like, I have to go one more. Terry Weiland of the village of Harrison said the Packers are keeping up with the rest of the league, which is key to remaining competitive. I think we've done a good job, said Terry, who met his wife Betty at the University of Wisconsin Green Bay. Betty Weiland said she attended UW Green Bay in part because of the Packers, and she got to interview Bart Starr at his home for a school project. The Whelans became shareholders last year during the Packers' most recent stock sale. This is their first stockholders meeting. The Packers stockholders meetings are, after all, corporate business meetings, but with enough of a twist to bring some owners back more than once. Betty Whelan was expected to be among so many other Packer fans, which is set one of the... Betty Whelan was excited, to be among so many other Packer fans, which is one of the event's draws. Having it outdoors at Lambeau Field is the other. There's probably less football talk from Packer executives than shareholders would like. General Manager Brian Gutekunst on Monday basically read the roster for his report, much in the spirit of his mentor, former GM Ted Thompson, who never revealed anything about football in these talks about the football team. The Packers said 7,825 shareholders and guests attended the meeting, with another 1,200 shareholders watching a live stream of the event. A little more than 8,600 people attended last year's meetings, and the Packers have 538,967 shareholders. The weather Monday was better than expected. The sky was overcast for much of the meeting, which, along with the breeze, made the 79 degrees less uncomfortable than it could have been. 79 sounds freaking amazing. The Packers, who finished several major construction projects this year, including a $390 million worth of new offices with football staff and expanded practice space, will renovate the offices, and coaches are moving out after the end of next season. Murphy said the 20-year-old offices need updating. He also said the new office area for the coaches' remodeled area have room for growth. So they use this money that they make hand over fist to improve their facilities. The new video boards, which I got new video boards at 220 feet, are twice as high as the previous boards and have higher fidelity, Murphy said. So more video to watch the game you're already watching in person. Your story. As the Packers and the NFL get ready for another bloody battle to the end.
Well, let's hope there's not too much blood, because at the end of the day, it's sports, and we shouldn't permanently disfigure anybody because they happen to be playing it.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I'll try.
There's going to be disfigurement. We can count on that. All right, go ahead.
As people who with any kind of brain already know, the heat waves in Europe. Climate change is the cause. Who would have thought? This is from Judith van den Housbeek, the editor of Climate and Energy at NOS. In 2023, it is already a year full of extreme weather. Heat records above 45 degrees in southern Europe, endless heat waves in America, and temperatures above 50 degrees in China. What role does climate change play in this? A group of scientists has pondered this question. Their conclusion: without global warming, this extreme weather in America and Europe would have been virtually impossible. In China, the chance of such weather is now 50 times more likely than when the average temperature on Earth was 1.2 degrees colder. The conclusion is that these weather extremes are no longer exceptional at all. Previous studies have already shown that all heat waves are now linked to climate change. They become longer, more intense, and more frequent. In this case, the scientists studied 3 heat waves in July: the 18-day continuous heat wave in America and Mexico, 7 days of heat in southern Europe, and more than 14 days in China. All that at that time, millions of residents were issued heat warnings. There were heat deaths and wildfires. The to delineate the study, the scientists selected periods and areas where the impact of the heat waves was greatest. It was also hot in June, and it was even warmest month ever measured globally. Before industrialization, such temperatures were actually unthinkable, as the models show. The chance was that 1 in 1,000 or less, which is why we choose this wording, says climate researcher Miriam Zachariah of the Imperial College London. A heat period like the one in China was less likely in pre-industrial times, with a chance of occurring once every 250 years. That picture is now very different. In Europe, we can now expect a heat wave like this once every 10 years. In America, this one once every 15 years, and in China, once every 5 years.
Wow.
The researchers emphasized that they did not find the results surprising from a scientific point of view. This is all within our models, said Frederic Otto, also a climate scientist at Imperial College London. As long as we don't stop burning fossil fuels, the climate will continue to warm and heat waves will become more frequent and intense. It's simple as that. He doesn't find it strange that the heat waves occur at the same time. These used to be rare events, not anymore, because they are no longer so exceptional, and also less coincidental that they occur at the same time, says Otto. How do the researchers know that other weather phenomena such as El Nino have had no impact? We have not included the role of El Nino in our calculations this time, but we know from previous research that the role is small compared to greenhouse gas emissions. Attribution studies of this kind have previously looked at the role of climate change in extreme weather, such as floods in Limburg, Belgium, and Germany. Warming played a role there. Sometimes the role of warming is limited. For example, research into the floods in northern Italy showed that the risk of this has not increased. Determining the role of climate change in a specific weather event is a fairly new branch of climate science. Climate researcher Sjoeke Philip of KNMI is one of the scientists who have already conducted several such studies. She was also involved in this study. Compared to other scientific studies, this is happening at breakneck speed and is not scrutinized by other scientists. The method itself has now been peer-reviewed. Simply put, we have a climate model with which we can look at the climate with warming caused by greenhouse gases and one without. We can see the role of climate change in the difference. The researchers also looked at the intensity of heat wave, which has also increased. In Europe, maximum temperature is 2.5 degrees higher due to warming. In America, that is 2 degrees, and in China, that heat wave was a degree warmer than it had been without climate change. That's the importance of this study. It shows that the heat waves like this are becoming normal and only getting hotter, said Philip. To prevent worse, we have to stop emitting greenhouse gases. We also have to adapt, to provide good heat plans and more water and greenery in the city. Otto also warns that this is not the final destination. These extremes will occur much more with a warming degree of 2 degrees. Even if we stop emitting greenhouse gases today, the temperature will not go down, so we have to learn to live with this. Yes, and let's make this clear, when they're talking about 0.15 or 1.5 degrees higher, they're not talking about it's 81 degrees instead of 80. They're talking about the global average of the entire planet, which if you know how averages work, you add up all the numbers and then you divide by how many you added up. That's how averages work. So if the average of total all of them has increased by 1 degree, that's a lot. That's a lot of places have gone up 10 degrees, maybe 20 degrees than usual, than they're supposed to be. That's what we're talking about when it comes to local weather. Local weather cannot control the total heating of the entire planet, basically. El Nino is a local weather phenomenon, so it only affects really that area. It's like a hot, well, we talked about it before on the show. It's hot water. It's water coming and being hot.
Right. It's not a temporary local condition. It's a permanent worldwide phenomenon.
Exactly.
And of course, all the people that are climate deniers are denying it's not really that hot. That kind of stuff. It's like, seriously?
Yeah, I mean, where I'm right now, this is nice weather for the majority of the population where I live. Nice. Yeah. It's 18 degrees Celsius. We can go outside, we can do stuff, we won't get heat stroke.
Right.
But southern Greece is on fire right now.
Right.
That's not good.
Yeah. Okay, so in good climate news, hopefully, we have a ship that's powered by green methanol. So let me make this story bigger so I can read it. All right. This is from the Good News Network. Andy Corbley. Global merchant ship leader Maersk is launching a biomethanol-powered container ship this week as part of its fast-track decarbonization strategy. Producing about the same emissions globally as the airline industry, merchant shipping is experimenting with several ways of cutting back emissions, including through the use of methanol gas, ammonia, and hydrogen. While these fuels are anywhere between 200% and 400% more expensive than conventional fuel because of the massive amounts of cargo the ships are capable of carrying, a pair of shoes might only accrue a related cost increase of 5 cents. There's this fear, I think, of making the wrong bet and getting it wrong somehow. Morten Bo Christensen, who leads the decarbonization at Maersk, told an audience at the TED Countdown Summit last week. And of course, in the ideal world, we would spend a decade figuring out all the pros and cons of what is best, but we need to address the problem now. Green methanol is combustible gas collected from decomposing plant waste and can reduce CO2 emissions and equivalents from a container ship by as much as 70%. Maersk ordered a ship 2 years ago and has already placed an order for 25 more methanol-powered vessels, in addition to retrofitting existing ships with methanol engines and turbines, according to Fast Company. By the end of the decade, the company plans to have low-carbon fuels transport a quarter of all tonnage across the 700-strong fleet. Globally, shipping companies have 120 vessels with low carbon or carbon neutral propulsion systems in order. Additionally, retrofitting of existing diesel ships with sails is also seen as a fast and easy way to decarbonize. That's a short but sweet story on efforts by the shipping industry to cut their carbon footprint. And back to you, unless you're having a snack. Back to you.
Unless you're having a snack. Nope. That was a short one. Oh, right.
Yep.
Well, we'll see. I guess we'll see in 10 years if that does anything. Or we're all dead. not to be pessimistic. Okay.
Yeah, let's have...
Speaking of dead people, jury expected to give verdict over a terror attack from Brussels. This is from Associated Press. A jury is expected to give its verdict over Belgium's deadliest peacetime attack, the suicide bombings at Brussels airport and busy subway station in 2016 that killed 32 people in a wave of violence in Europe claimed by Islamic State group. Among the 10 defendants is Salah Abdeslam, who is already serving a life sentence without parole in France over his role in the attacks that hit Paris cafes, the Bataclan Theater, and France's National Stadium in 2015. The suspects in Brussels were tried on charges including murder, attempted murder, and participating in acts of a terrorist group. The biggest trial in Belgium's judicial history unfolded over more than half a year in a special court to address the exceptional case. Survivors and families of victims hope that the trial and subsequent verdict would help them work through the trauma and find closure. The morning rush hour attacks on the 22nd of March 2016 at Zaventem Airport and on the Brussels subway central commuter line shook the city, headquarters of the European Union and NATO, and put the country on edge. In addition to 32 people killed, nearly 900 others were wounded or suffered serious mental trauma. The 12 jurors have been deliberating since early July over some 300 questions the court asked them to consider before reaching a verdict. Tuesday's expected decision will address whether or not the suspects are guilty of various charges. Eventual sentencing will be decided in a separate process and not expected before September. If convicted, some could face up to 30 years in prison. Abdeslam was the only survivor among the Islamic State extremists who struck in Paris in November 2015, and were part of a Franco-Belgian network that went to target Brussels 4 months later. Also on trial in Brussels is Mohamed Abrini, childhood friend of Abdeslam, and a Brussels native who walked away from Zaventem Airport after his explosives failed to detonate. Wow. I mean, Yeah, it's a hard one there because they're already blowing themselves up to cause a terrorism, right? So usually you're not going to be there to be trialed. You kind of killed yourself. So
Right.
is it luck or unlucky that his bombs didn't go off? You know, it's lucky for the people who were there who, you know, had nothing to do with it, but unlucky for him because now he gets to go on trial for the terrible things his group committed. He's just taken all of the brunt of the group because those two are the only survivors.
Yeah, the ones that didn't carry through the mission, right?
Yeah. The ones that fail, well, I mean, sometimes you got a dud, and you fail to murder a bunch of people, so, I mean, like I said, something to celebrate.
He's what's the word? I don't know. I lost my train of thought in that one. All right,
just go ahead to your next story then.
Well, it's just if you're a terrorist, you're probably not afraid of the death penalty. I guess that's what the word I was looking for. Yeah. You're like, well, you're gonna kill me. Well, I was gonna die anyway. All right. In good health news, this is from the Good News Network. Also, but no byline. Oh wait, Kimia Oviesi. An espresso a day could keep Alzheimer's at bay by preventing tau clumping. What is tau clumping? We'll find out together. Whether enjoyed in a latte, Americano, or even a martini, espresso coffee provides an ultra concentrated jolt of caffeine, but it might do even more for one's alertness over the long run, according to new research. In vitro laboratory test shows espresso compounds can inhibit tau protein aggregation, which is one of the processes believed to be involved in the onset of Alzheimer's disease. Although the exact mechanisms that cause dementia are still unclear, a protein called tau plays a significant role. In healthy people, tau, I think that's how it's pronounced. I have no idea. Proteins help stabilize structures in the brain, but when certain diseases develop, the proteins can clump together into fibrils. Scientists believe that the tangles are one of the key causes of dementia, slowing thinking and memory skills. Well, here's an example of it right there. Hey, some researchers propose that preventing this aggregation could alleviate symptoms. So, Maria Pina D'Onofrio and colleagues at Verona University in Italy where they drink a lot of espresso, wanted to see if compounds in the coffee could prevent tau clumping in lab experiments. The researchers, ever met a researcher? The researchers pulled espresso shots from store-bought beans, then characterized their chemical makeup using nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. They chose caffeine and triglycerine, both alkaloids, along with the flavonoid gynostine and theobromine, a compound also found in chocolate, to focus on further experiments. These molecules individually, along with full espresso extract, were incubated alongside a shortened form of the tau protein for up to 48 hours. As the concentration of espresso extract, caffeine, and ginseng increased, fibrils were shorter and didn't form larger sheets, with the complete extract showing the most dramatic results. Shortened fibrils were found to be non-toxic cells, and they did not act as seeds for further clumping. And we do not want the clumping. We must prevent the clumping. No clumping. In other experiments, the researchers observed that both caffeine and the espresso extract could bind preformed tau fibrils. Italians knock back some 30 million espressos each year in little cups, and multiple studies in the last decade showed that the drink could have beneficial effects to its antioxidants and plant chemicals, which dampen inflammation. Regular consumption has been linked to reduced risks of premature death, type 2 diabetes, protecting against heart disease and liver disease, and Parkinson's, and some cancers. Professor D'Onofrio said coffee extracts contain a large variety of bioactive compounds exhibiting health beneficial effects. we are able to identify the most abundant constituents. We have presented a large body of evidence that espresso coffee is a source of natural compounds showing beneficial properties and ameliorating tau-related pathologies. Boy, what a $90 sentence that was. Okay. Although much more research is needed, the team, which published their results in American Chemical Studies Journal of Agriculture and Food Chemistry, said that the preliminary in vitro findings could pave the way towards designing bioactive compounds that could protect against neurodegenerative diseases, including Alzheimer. So here we are, trying to keep our brains from turning to mush. And one more good story in a very short one. I didn't realize that one was so long. This one's short. A boy stops at a random house to leave a pep talk on a stranger's doorbell.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, this is from the Good News Network again. A young boy was headed down a neighborhood sidewalk when he made a stop at a random house with a doorbell camera to leave a positive message of encouragement to a stranger. The video, posted on YouTube by Southwest News Agency, does not identify the boy or the location, but the youth is an American walking with a few friends in a tree-lined neighborhood. He looks directly into the camera with an earnestness and wisdom seemingly beyond his ears. You matter, all right? There's always going to be someone who cares about you. You're a good person. No matter what people say about you, you matter. I'm just trying to say something nice. You matter, man, or girl, whoever you are, you matter to someone. Just keep that in mind. Don't forget that. Then he went on with his day, sauntering down the sidewalk with a small shopping bag, presumably headed home. All right, you can watch the video. There's a link for it. But yeah, a little bit of some random child letting the strangers know somebody cares about you. Your story.
Okay. Well, hopefully nothing bad happened to him, because in my experience, people usually say that because they couldn't tell somebody else that. So,
probably
not to be a pessimist, just being realistic. Not that people can't be nice, but usually you gain that kind of empathy because something tragic happened to you. So
I choose to put a positive spin on this. So that's just me on Good Tuesday.
Okay. In some goofier news, while I was in between stories, I found an article by Caroline Madden on Polygon on Disney's hottest animated animal characters ranked.
Wow.
Okay.
Hottest.
Before the Disney edition of Would You Rather became a TikTok fad, it was one of my favorite games to play with my theater nerd friends. We ranked the typical Disney princes and princesses as potential suitors. Flynn Rider, Jasmine, Aladdin, Esmeralda, etc. But never so often an animal snuck into the rankings too, because Disney's anthropomorphic animals are designed to be as attractive as humans. There's a scientific reason for people to be attracted to Disney animals. In Nicholas Samon's book Babes in Tomorrowland, Walt Disney and the Making of American Child, Bambi, animator Mark Davis recalls studying real animals to inspire his drawings, but giving them human expression and relatable movements so viewers could emotionally identify with them. It took a huge book on baby behavior in every interesting child's face. I would interpret it into the mask of this young deer. The Bambi animals weren't as cartoonish as the ones in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which supervisor animator Eric Larson said resembled big flour sacks. And as the decades went on, the line between human and animal characteristics in Disney's characters continued to blur. In an online interview, Sex and Sexuality in Modern Screen Remakes, author Dr. Lauren Rosenwern explains why people get so thirsty for Disney animals. When a character that is putatively an animal speaks with a sexy voice and human physical elements such as curved hips, cleavage, biceps, etc., the producer is presenting a sexualized animal to the audience. None of this is an accident, she says. For some audiences, their presentation won't be particularly meaningful. In others, it's vaguely attractive. And for others, the display will be distinctly arousing. Producers know this and cash in on it. So it is perfectly logical that Disney animals play a big part in kids' early sexual development. With that in mind, Let us take us on a journey through the hottest animals in the Disney Kingdom.
Oh my.
Number 20, Bernard from The Rescuers. Number 19, Tramp from Lady and the Tramp. Number 18, Rita from Oliver and Company. She literally has blue eyeshadow on. Like, hello? And, you know, like the blue eyeshadow with the huge eyelashes. Beast from Beauty and the Beast. Very famously, people loved Beast when he was the Beast and not when he becomes human. They're like, oh, they ruined him. He's just a generic guy now. Miss Bianca from The Rescuers, because she's like a motherly figure. Dodger from Oliver and Company, because he's a cool dog with some sunglasses. Georgette from Oliver and Company. Oh, she's just like kind of typical poodle, sexy poodle, I guess. Prince Naveen as the frog. Not when he turns into a human, but when he's a frog.
Yeah, of course.
From
It's
Princess
animals.
and the Frog.
It's animals only. Remember?
Yeah, it's animals only. Vixie, the Fox and the Hound. Well, obviously that one's easy, because that's the reason he leaves the farm, to go chase after the female fox. Judy Hopps from Zootopia. That's the bunny. The bunny cop. Lady from Lady and the Tramp. Hot Tiger from Zootopia. He literally doesn't have a name. His name is the Hot Tiger on the subway. Nick Wilde from Zootopia. That's the fox character. Nala, of course, was a lot of people's sexual awakening, because she does that thing where she does the sexy eyes at Simba in the grass.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone's like, I've never seen that before.
You're
I'm
covering
12.
a lot of
I've
cartoons I'm not familiar with. Yeah.
And also, famously, oh god, I can't remember his name now. Can you feel the love tonight? That song by Elton John is playing in the background. A lot of people's sexual awakening was Nala. And Simba, of course, is number 6. Basil from The Great Mouse. I don't know why people like Mouse Detectives. Every single member of Mouse Detectives is on this list. Roxanne from a Goofy movie. She's basically a human that has a dog face. Barrette Girl from an extremely goofy movie. Also just a human with a dog face. Kovu from The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. I have to admit this one. I loved Kovu as a child. I was like, that is a sexy lion. Of course, at this time, I didn't know what sexy was, but my brain did. My brain was like, I wish Kovu was my boyfriend. He's a lion.
That'd be a cool boyfriend, you gotta admit.
My boyfriend's a sexy emo lion. And number 1 is Robin Hood. From the Robin Hood animated film, who is, I believe, a fox.
Oh, okay.
But he's like the bad boy, you know? He's the bad boy, Robin Hood, stealing stuff for the poor. He's cocky and rebellious, so of course, number 1.
These are Disney movies only, right?
Yeah, only Disney movies and only animals. That was.
I was gonna say Roger
10.
Rabbit.
Sorry,
Roger Rabbit wasn't a Disney movie.
Yeah, I don't think people were. I don't think Roger Rabbit's very sexy.
Jessica Rabbit.
Jessica Rabbit, yeah, okay, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah. But that was our top 20 sexiest animals in Disney movies only. So go ahead and make your list at home if you would also like to list out what animals you find attractive.
And that's not a Disney movie, so my list sucks.
Yeah,
and no Wilma Flintstone, no Judy Jetson.
Well, those are humans. They have to be animals.
But they're still cartoons and they're not real, so it doesn't matter.
All right, on to the stage.
Well, I was going through my list. Animals didn't do it because I'm not a sicko. So, well, I'm not a sicko in that way. Anyway, okay, and today is several things happen in history. It's not a totally meaningless day in the history of the United States or the world. And actually, most of these are world history as you look at them. So they're not, what do they call, Americocentric or whatever. Today's the 25th, right? Okay. Today in history. In 1834, English romantic poet and literary critic Samuel Taylor Coleridge died. 1868, the U.S. Congress formed the Wyoming Territory. In 1898, U.S. forces under General Nelson A. Miles invaded Puerto Rico during the Spanish-American War. In 1906, Johnny Hodges is a jazz alto saxophone who is featured soloist on Duke Ellington's orchestra, known for his brilliant improvisational sense of composition was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, as I talk to you today from Cambridge, Maryland. In 1919, a member of the Foreign Ministry of the newly formed Soviet government, Lev Karakhan, issued the Karakhan Manifesto, aptly named, in which he offered to relinquish all Soviet claims to the special rights and privileges in China won by the Russian Tsarist government. So in 1919, they said, we don't want China. 1952, Puerto Rico attained its own government as a Commonwealth of the United States. In 1965, at Newport, Rhode Island Folk Festival, American singer and songwriter Bob Dylan initially eschewed his acoustic guitar to go electric.
Oh,
the controversial performance is considered one of the most pivotal moments in the history of rock and roll. In fact, the most pivotal moments because, what?
Didn't the crowd walk out? Didn't they leave?
At first, the folkies didn't like it, even though there was other blues acts there that had their instruments plugged in, but they were black, so they weren't allowed to boo them. They could boo Bob Dylan. I'm just saying, you're not going to boo an old blues man. Like, boo! No, he's plugging in his guitar! Right? Nope, you're not booing him, but you can boo Dylan because they felt like they owned him at that point. We own you! No, you don't, boo. No, you don't, boo. Okay. My story. Keep continuing. Louise Brown, the first human conceived using in vitro fertilization, was born in England. Yes, Louise Brown was known as the test tube baby. That was her official name for, might still be her official name. 1984, Soviet cosmonaut Svetlana Yevgenyevna Sadyatskaya became the first woman to walk in space. I bet you that's a lot easier to say in Russian. In 2020, a Concorde in the year 2000, a Concorde supersonic airplane, Air France Flight 4590, crashed outside Paris, killing all 109 people aboard and 4 others on the ground. The event was believed to have hastened the end of all Concorde operation 3 years later. You think? Yeah.
Oh, the supersonic flights. Yeah.
There was debris on the frickin' runway. It had nothing to do with the plane.
Yeah.
A ridiculous reason to stop flying. Anyway.
Yeah, we could be having a supersonic flight right now, but some dude left their tire on the runway.
Yeah, I could get from New York to Paris in 5 minutes. Thanks, idiots. 2007, India lawyer, politician Pratibha Patil was sworn in office as India, becoming the first woman to hold office. That happened in 2007 in... Really? Becoming the first woman to hold office?
In India.
Bullshit. Indira Gandhi was the president for years. I'm confused.
Maybe
I'm confused.
I don't know.
That's a weird headline. I got more research into that because Indira Gandhi was the president of India in like the 70s. What's this, 2007? I'm going to read this again. Indian lawyer and politician, I can't pronounce, was sworn in as president of India, becoming the first woman to hold the office. Was Indira Gandhi not president of India?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe there are different...
She was something else of India?
Yeah.
Prime minister? Okay.
Yeah, something like, you know how that is. People have presidents and prime ministers and governors and mayors, and there's so many different...
It just confuses the hell out of me.
Yeah.
It's like having the first janitor now. It's like, okay, you know? You got a title that I didn't understand before. What was Indira Gandhi? She was the head whatever, you know? Mascot? What was she?
Yeah, the head mascot.
And then featured event. American advance into Canada halted by British troops in this near Niagara Falls. In this day in 1814, British troops commanded by Phineas Rale thwarted invasion of Canada by U.S. force under General Jacob Brown. The Battle of Lundy's Lane during the War of 1812. Otherwise, the United States would be really huge.
Yeah, the Russia size.
All right. And featured biographies. Today was born Thomas Eakins, American painter, was born on this day on 1844. Walter Payton, American football player, was born on this day in 1954. Emmett Till, American murder victim. Imagine that being your epitaph. was born in 1941 and died by the hands of a bunch of racists a few years later.
Sad,
in 1920,
incredibly
Rosalind
sad.
Franklin, British scientist, was born, and 1894, Gavrilo Princip, a Slavic nationalist, was born. 1894, the same day, American actor Walter Brennan was born.
Wow.
And last but not least, at least in my heart, national days and international days. It is National Thread the Needle Day. So there you go. Thread that needle. It's National Wine and Cheese Day, National Hire a Veteran Day, National Hot Fudge Sundae Day, National Hot Fudge Sundae Day, Sunday Day. You got to say day twice in a row. That's just National Merry-Go-Round Day. So eat your hot fudge. Well, you get the picture. And that's it for me.
Okay. And this is Allison here from Before Coffee. Going to go eat some sundaes. Actually, I haven't had a sundae in a long time. Maybe I can find one somewhere and make one myself. And we will see you next time for some more news. Wacky news on Wacky Wednesday.
Yeah, wacky and weird. And this is Roger from the United States, giving you the good news on Good Tuesday and the comprehensive news of planet Earth on today, this day, July 25th, 2023, on Before Coffee. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.